Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, friends, family, and random passers-by, because today I am continuing my playthrough of Crystal of Storms. Yes, it is the 69th entry in the Fighting Fantasy franchise, the main series, by which I mean I'm excluding Steve Jackson's sorcery because um, I and others included, we think of that as a separate entity, a little bit separate from the rest of the Fighting Fantasy series. So this is the 69th book, and that's the one that was published a few days ago. It came out last week, and I started playing this last time in my previous video, and I did a save game point. By that I mean it's like in the old days when you put in the finger bookmark and you do something and it turns out horribly wrong and you go back to the place where you had your finger. So what happened last time? I'll do a quick recap. Of course, I'll put a link to the old video up here if you want to have a look. Before I recap, I'll just get a sip of tea. Lovely. I was actually thinking of having an iced coffee with this play session particularly, but I was thinking that the tea is becoming almost like a sort of a trademark thing for me now, and I probably should keep having the tea around. Also, it tastes much nicer than coffee, let's be honest. Okay, a little recap. So Crystal of Storms, you find yourself in a new part of Titan, which we have never seen before. It's a completely new invention by Rihanna Pratchett. It is the world of Pangaria, of course, which is the have islands that are hovering in the clouds. So it's like a sort of a cloud world. The islands have names after types of clouds. So there's Cirrus, Altus, Cumulus, things like that. I can't remember all of them. Incus is one. And what happens is that it's quite a peaceful place. Many people don't venture away from their home island. But you want to join, I can't remember what they're called now, but like the watch, the people, the peacekeepers, I suppose we could call them, of the islands, the law enforcement, whose job consists mostly of helping people find their lost pets and also disputes to do with what happens when your neighbor cuts your shrubbery because it is encroaching on his land and you're a bit miffed about it, and so you call the coppers. Because you want adventure, you want to see all the islands, and that is one of the ways you can do it, is to join the law enforcement. So the first few weeks after you join as a recruit are a bit dull and boring, as you'd expect, but then something a little bit too exciting happens. All of the law enforcement people are called to the main island of Nimbus for something, and every single one of you, yes, which also makes it sound to me like that is part of the plot that starts happening next, because as the youngest recruit, you are sent back to your home island to pick up something for your commanding officer. And you're a bit miffed about that because you really were looking forward to seeing the Citadel on Nimbus. No, sorry, on Nimbus. Yes, the Citadel on Nimbus. I was about to say Cirrus there. You go back to your home island to pick up something, and you want to see the Citadel on Nimbus for a second time and see it properly because you did go there to get sworn in, but you haven't been since. But something happens as you are going back to pick up these things for your commanding officer. There's an explosion on Nimbus and it falls down from the sky into the sea below. So something absolutely terrible has happened. The whole of the watch has been wiped out. You, as far as you know, are the only person left in law enforcement in all of the Isles. You take it upon yourself to find out what happened, who's behind it, and bring them to justice, preferably. And so your adventure begins. Now, the things that you went to pick up for your commanding officer was a pair of mechanical wings with which you can fly, but they need to be recharged before you can travel between the islands. There's also, you can travel with a flyer, which is like a sort of a goblin. And of course, in this game, the goblins are the sort of tinkerers, the mechanics, the engineers, the technomancers. Just like there have been in lots of popular high fantasy culture the last 20 years, especially something that probably is quite deeply embedded in people's minds now are the goblins in World of Warcraft, for instance, who are the ones who use technology rather than magic. But of course, in this world, it's like a mix of magic and technology that is technomancy, which I think is quite a nice way to describe them. This is not unique to Rhiannon Pratchett, but I think it's quite a good way to thing for the goblins to do. And of course, it makes them different from the old-fashioned fighting fantasy and Tolkien goblins, which are more akin to sort of a weaker cousin of the orc, a smaller and weaker cousin of the orc. So that's a means of traveling between the islands. Now, what you do in the beginning of the game, I'll just show you my map now. Excuse me. Right, sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. I completely lost my thread now. Where was my train of thought? Has left the station without me. Right, so you can travel with goblins. The goblins are a bit different from the Tolkien and other high fantasy, old high fantasy goblins. And yes, I'll just see if I can pick it up somewhere now. So of course, you try to find out what happened. And in the beginning, you get a choice of going to either to Cirrus, Altos, or Cumulus. And the one you choose first is the one that's supposed to be your home planet. Now, this is significant, and I'm actually quite like the mechanic of this, because whatever is your home planet, for that, not planet, whatever is your home island, is you get an ally to help you in whatever battles happen on that island, which is a really good system, I think. It gives you bonuses to attack. It means you take a little bit less damage, you do a little bit more damage in battle, and I think it works really well. And it's relatively linear once you're on these islands. The main difference is actually between what happens is whether you have an ally or not, whether it's your home island or not, and also the occasional skill roll or luck roll. And there are loads of stuff to pick up. In this game, in this book, you don't start with rations or provisions that give you any health back. You don't start with potions, but there is a complete raft of edible items you can pick up that restore 2 or 3 hit points each. There are healing potions to be picked up that restore 4 points of stamina. There are loads of items to pick up, and also, just to show you now, these are the things that I've picked up here now. This is a lot. There are clues as well, and some of them give you sort of code words that you need for later, I presume, because other things will happen depending on whether you have the right code words. And it's like a flag, I suppose you would call it in programming terms, where you just put in it's like a future conditional statement where you think that, oh, have you met this person? Have you spoken to that person about that? And if you have, then you go to this paragraph instead. And of course, one way to do that in the game book is to create code words where you get, so I got 3 code words. I got Hazi, Bubble, and Boreas. So if any of those come up in future paragraphs, it says, do you have the code word Hazi, presumably, yes or no, and then you go to the paragraphs accordingly. So that's quite a good way of doing it, I think. So I think the one thing I don't like so much about this is the amount of items, the amount of stuff. It's a little bit much, I think. Now, some of these might be useful, others might not, but most of them are actually just food items. and it could easily have been dispensed with. Instead of finding 2 dried fish that give you +2 stamina each of them, you could have just kept the old provision system and said that you find 1 provision of food. And that would have been a lot tidier for your record keeping, for your equipment list, for your adventure sheet. Anyway, that said, I actually quite like this book. I know that some people say it's a bit twee and it's a bit, somehow it's not quite the right style. By that I mean it's different to the old ones, and it seems a little bit more geared towards young girls rather than young boys. I don't think that is a shortcoming of the book at all. I think that a lot of that impression is also guided by the fact that you expect it to be written that way. You expect it by the cover as well to try to appeal to that demographic. And I know that actually for a fact because I've heard officially that Rhiannon Pratchett said that it actually is intended to be appealing to younger girls, to get them enthusiastic about the genre, about game books, and this sort of revival we are having now. But I don't think that means it should be any less appealing to boys. I don't think so. It's just there's absolutely no reason why that should be different. And I actually quite like it. I'm not a little girl. I'm a grown-up man, I suppose. Although I don't usually qualify myself as a man, I think of myself as a boy still, because it just... the thing about getting older is you don't feel any older. In some ways I actually felt older when I was 20 than I do now. It's kind of bizarre, but it's true. So and I'm really enjoying this. I love going to Panto. I like reading comic books. I find these things more fun sometimes now than I did when I was younger. And I like watching children's movies because you see things from a different perspective as well. So quite fun, actually. I actually watched Karate Kid again a few days ago, and I must say it's quite different watching it now when you're no longer because I watched it when I was a teenager, obviously, and of course it is a teenager film. But when you see it from a more grown-up perspective, and also with more experience in watching films, you sort of realize different things about it, and you can appreciate it from a different angle. And there are other things that become sort of standout scenes for you as well, probably because for anyone who has watched it, there's this scene where Mr. Miyagi is drunk. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but that scene is actually very, very touching, and you don't realize that when you're a teenage boy so much. You're just waiting for the fighting and for the training and all that fun stuff. But it's a very, very powerful scene there that is just extremely well acted as well. So anyway, not going to say any more about Karate Kid. I'm going to go to Crystal of Storms. Now, I did save game point, and what had happened before that is I visited all those 3 initial islands that you can visit. And then at the end of being on... which one was it now? Cumulus? No, seriously, I can't remember now. Was it Cumulus? You find yourself... I think it's Cumulus. You find yourself in a position where you're given an option of sorting out a bridge where there is something going on. And I said last time that, okay, I don't need to do that. That's actually not even where I'm going. But I would look into it because just to see if I could make it. And I think I'll give it one more try. And if that fails, I will go back to... this is when I'm communicating with the goblin that is... whose name was Draxa, I think, who's in charge of the flyer that goes to other islands. And she said to have a look at the bridge if you wanted to. And you could get a helmet for it, which I think could be useful. But when I went there is a lightning serpent, which is quite a nasty sort of oriental dragon style creature that can breathe electricity and hurt you that way. And I just thought I'd give it a go, and I'll give it one more go, and if that fails I will go back to my save game and I will take the other route, which is going back to, I believe it is Altos I'm supposed to go to get to the next island, which isn't one of the initial 3. So if you want to see how I got here, have a look at my old video. Otherwise, well, let's see what happens now. Okay, so we are starting in medias res, as they say, in the thick of it, in the middle of the action. Just like the very first Star Wars film, which is a very good opening, by the way. And let's get started. So we have paragraph 327. I'll just do that one again. So it's this very charming creature we got here that we are after, or that is after us. You decide to confront whatever lurks in the mist. As you get closer, the mist begins to undulate as the hissing creature comes closer. It rises out of the fog, lightning rolling off its long, scaly body. It's a lightning serpent, a rare and extremely dangerous beast, and now you're going to have to deal with it. And the lightning serpent has a skill of 9 and a stamina of 9, which sounds doable but hard. But if the lightning serpent makes a successful strike, that's a tongue twister there apparently. Roll 1 die. If you roll 4 to 6, it doubles damage as forked lightning blasts from its mouth. If you hit it using a metal weapon, roll 1 die. And if you roll 5 or 6, you suffer 2 stamina points of damage too, as you are electrocuted. So this is a really tricky one, and I almost made it last time, and I had to use a bit of luck as well. But I didn't quite make it. So let's see now. So we got 11. I've got full stamina, 11, 18. So just use that. And the serpent has 9, 9. So let's see if the dice are with me this time. So I've got a 2 skill point advantage. I've got a 10 skill. I lost 1 point because I got bitten by a chest. But then I've got 1 extra point for using a better weapon. So I've got 2 +1 weapons. I'm using one of them. I'm using a longsword. I've also got a dagger that's +1 as well. And in this game book, as opposed to so many of them now, instead of saying that the weapons add skill, it correctly says it adds to your attack roll when you use it, which is what it should have said the whole series through. And it does indeed say so in Warlock of Firetop Mountain, and they removed that. I changed it for some reason because they thought it was confusing to people, maybe. I don't know. It's the only correct way to do it, I think. So, Serpent rolls a 5. I roll a 4. Which means I hit it, and I want to use luck to do extra damage. So I rolled against 11, and I roll 8. So I'm down to 10 luck, and I've done ease down to 5 stamina. And again, hang on. When you make a successful strike, I have to see if I roll a 5 or 6, and I also would take damage. So I rolled a 5, which means I take 2 damage from hitting it. Okay. Many rules to keep in mind. So he rolls a 9. I roll a 6. He hits me. Does he roll a 4 to 6? He doesn't. So he does normal damage. Another 2 points. He rolls an 8. I roll an 11. So I hit him. I want to use luck to do extra damage. Roll against 10. Yep. I'm down to 9. He's got 1 hit point left, and I roll to see if I get electrocuted on a 5 or 6. Nope. And then he rolls a 5. Good. I roll a 9. I hit him again, which means he is dead, and I have to see if I get electrocuted, and I don't. It's on a 5 and 6. I've got 14 stamina left, and I have defeated the lightning serpent. So, if you win, turn to 95. So there we are, 95. As you dispense the killing blow, the lightning serpent sinks back into the mist, which melts away, leaving the bridge swaying in the bright sunshine. At your feet, you see Dax's aeronaut's helmet. You pick it up and put it on, grateful that goblins have surprisingly large heads for their size. You feel better protected, and you notice that there's a crystal visor built into the helmet. You flip the visor down and your vision becomes much sharper. You realize it must be magically enhanced. Nice. Wearing the aeronaut's helmet will permanently add 1 point to your skill score, even if this takes it beyond its initial level. So in this case, it just brings it back to initial level. So now I've got 11 and 12 using my weapons. Also, if you suffer a hit from a weapon in battle, roll 1 die, and on a 5 or 6, you may reduce the damage done by 1 stamina point. That is really good. So, aeronaut's helmet. So that's -1 damage on 5 to 6. I have to remember that. That's so easy to forget. So with the bridge now open, you can continue to Cirrus, which isn't really where I was going. I just wanted to sort that out. So, turn to 232. Now let's see if I can find any other 232s now. Because there would be... I can't see any. Cirrus is down here, but let's see. Let's go with 242, 232. So helmet, +1 skill, 5, 6, 3. Oh, okay, so that's really good. 232. I'll just put 232 up there for now, and then I'll see how I can weave that into my map in a moment. With the bridge now open, you step onto the pleasant Isle of Cirrus, which produces much of the magically enhanced fruit, vegetables, and grains that feed Pangaea. You're nervous about what the magical energy released by Nimbus may have done to the vegetation. You look around and spot a plume of blue-green smoke in the distance. You also realize that the local watch house is not too far away. That might be worth visiting for supplies. Now, of course, there's this problem now is that I've been able to visit Cirrus twice, even though, so that means I've already done these things, and these things have already happened, which means I will have to be a bit flexible now, because the game doesn't take this into account, what happens when you go back to the same place. So that means that the only place, everything that's happened, I've done everything on Cirrus. All I need to do is actually get off the island. So I'm going to just skip ahead now and go to where you can leave the island, because that's the only thing that makes sense, because everything else has been done. I've gone to the watch house, I've checked out the smoke. I don't, because if I go again, I will find the same things over again, and that doesn't seem fair either. So I will have to leave, which is, if I can find it here, 255. So basically, in this case, let's see. 49. I'm just seeing where these things are now. 3, 9. Oh, okay. So I can go. Technically, it leads me to. Let's use the red line here now. 49 or 137. So, but of course I've done these before. So I'll just go to the conclusion, logical conclusion of these, which is to leave. So I'm going to 255. You reach the north end of Cirrus and look for the Goblin Flyer, which normally takes the inhabitants onto the other islands. You eventually find the flyer, but its balloon is deflated, and its Goblin pilot is rummaging angrily in his tool bag whilst muttering to himself. You approach him carefully. Turn to 346. Would you look at that, he grumbles, gesturing to his damaged balloon when he sees you approach. I was just having a spot of lunch and minding my own business when I hears a huge bang and a great big rock hits the old girl and gives her a gaping big hole in her side. And I dropped my best pie over the edge of the island, which is even worse, isn't it? He sadly strokes the deflated balloon. There, old girl, he murmurs gently. As soon as Grax finds you a patch and some glue, we'll get you up and floating about again. You ask if you can be of any help. Thank you, officer, says Grax, looking a little more cheerful. If you happen upon something I can fashion into a patch, that would help. Or if you've got some coin, you can charge up the crystal in those hovers of yours. They won't take you to the furthest islands. The hovers, that's what you call the wings, the mechanical wings. But they should get you to Altus or Cumulus. Usually you'd be able to use the sky bridge to Cumulus, but it's been closed due to some unusual energies on the Cumulus side. So your hovers or my flyer are your best bet for now. If you have a cabbage leaf or a silk cloth, turn to 200. I do have a silk cloth that I picked up. So I'm going to go to 200. You hand over the item. Okay, so I've got my silk cloth. Cross it out. Grax studies it, trying to gauge whether it might help him fix his beloved flyer. Yes, I think that should do the trick. Now all I need is something to glue it down with. You got anything? If you have some toad goop or healing honey, turn to 340. I do indeed have those. 340. You rummage in your pack until you find something which might act as a glue. So that is the goop, sticky goop. There we are. You hand it over to Grax. Perfect, he says, delighted. Give me a few minutes and I'll have her ready for you. I only have Incus on my licensed route, so if you want to go to Asperitas, you'll have to go to the north end of Incus and pick up the Goblin Flyer from there. As for Altus or Cumulus, you'll have to use your hovers. Just tell me where you like to go. So, that means I'm going to Incus in that case. So, didn't we have Incus on our map here somewhere? Yes, there we are. Incus is over there as well. So, I'm going from here, and I'll use a green pen so I can see where this one goes now. And going to Incus there, number 8. And number 8 is probably something that should be on a new page. So we've got... So now we've basically done all our 3 initial islands, and then we move on to Incus, and then I presume we can also move on to later on to Asperitas, and on from there. So let's see how this goes now. So that's just that. So this is actually quite linear now. So these are most of the paragraph references that would have been in the first part of the book, and this is not even half the book yet. So there's still quite a bit left to go. And because it's quite a linear game, it's going to be quite a long adventure. I mean, my previous episode, even with my digressions, making it longer, of course, would have been quite long even without them. So, right, we have here Incus, number 8. So we have, go to number 8. Right. The Goblin Flyer brings you safely to Incus, the fishing island. You try to recall what you know about the island. Unlike the other residents of the archipelago, the Incus fishermen have been granted direct access to the Ocean of Tempests by Pangaria's authorities. Incus also floats lower than the other islands, which makes this easier. Various crafts are built and used by the Incus Islanders to trawl the ocean, bringing fresh fish, seaweed, coral shells, and other seaborne bounties to the lands above. The craft are embedded with storm crystals, which allow them to fly up and down from Incus as required. Due to the protective arms of the giant Zephyrus Tempest, the section of ocean directly under the archipelago is usually a calm and rich fishing ground. So like the eye of the storm, really, isn't it? The main dangers are the larger and more ferocious aquatic creatures who share these waters. Only the hardy can survive the Ocean of Tempests, and they are best left well alone. Are the hardy best left alone? Okay. However, the needs of a civilization, even a small one like Pangaria, are varied, and so the fishermen of Incus must often venture beyond the Zephyrus Tempest and into the wider ocean. There, the roughest seas require subaquatic craft known as bathyspheres, which can hunt and gather below the waves. Although they are noisier and more cumbersome and therefore run a greater risk of disturbing the local fauna. A bit of sort of eco message going on there. Don't disturb the whales. Okay. Incus also receives limited trade from trusted sources on the mainland, although the islanders are careful not to let them set foot on the archipelago. Very occasionally, Pangarian fishermen have rescued shipwreck survivors from the waters. If those survivors require aid that cannot be administered by the fishermen themselves, they are taken to Pangaria and given aid and sanctuary. Permanent sanctuary. Keeping the secrets of Pangaria safe is one of the first rules that every islander learns. So the first rule of Pangaria Club is keep the secrets of Pangaria safe. So I suppose don't tell anyone of Pangaria Club. You disembark. If the codeword Galen is on your adventure sheet, turn to 337. Otherwise, turn to 90. Interesting. A codeword I don't have, and probably maybe something I would have got if I'd had a certain ally maybe earlier. It's possible. So 337 Galen or 90. No. So I'm going to 90. The piece is interrupted by the sound of screams and clashing metal. You follow the noise towards one of the docks. You reach it to find a couple of fishermen in a frantic battle with an enormous crustacean. You fear the energies released from the explosion on Nimbus are responsible. The fishermen aren't faring at all well, and you see them get swept aside by the creature's massive claws before it starts smashing through some nearby boats. It's up to you to stop it now. Giant crab. Okay, so we've got a 8, 9 giant crab, and winning takes us to 199. Let's get started. Okay, so we've got 12, 14. I forgot to eat, didn't I? Versus 8, 9. And I can also roll to reduce my damage. So on a 5 or 6 if I get injured. Okay, so I've got a 4 points advantage. He rolls an 8. I roll 7, so I'm hitting him. It's down to 7. 8 versus 6. I'm hitting him again. Down to 5. 9 versus 9. He's down to 3. He rolls a 6. I roll a 10. He's got 1 hit point left. And 8 versus 9. And we've got crab for dinner. And I should also eat something. So I'll eat a bit of... let's see, what have we got? 4. So I can do a healing potion now. And take myself back to 18. So for the next battle, I got 18 stamina, which is my maximum. Okay, so 199. When you finally dispatch the corrupted crustacean, that's a nice phrase, turn of phrase, isn't it? Corrupted crustacean. The fishermen come out of hiding, looking extremely relieved. Unbelievable, says one of them, shaking his head in amazement. One moment I'm walking through the fresh catches shed, and the next thing I know I'm fighting for my life. Still, this will feed a few families for weeks, says another, examining the corpse. One of the fishermen gets a large shell saw and starts to use it on one of the monster's large claws. He uses a few more implements on it and finally hands you the pincer and some of the crab meat. The crab pincer smells a bit fishy, but it can be used, literally. But it can be used like a club. If you use it in a pincer in battle, you must reduce your attack strength by 1 point, but you may increase the damage by 1. Okay, that's interesting. So that may actually be useful. So pincer. So that's -1 attack, +1 damage. Okay. The crab meat will restore 3 stamina when eaten. So crab meat. So that is +3. Okay. Right, you ask the fishermen if they know what caused the nimbus to fall. Turn to 60. And again, now it's the nimbus as opposed to nimbus, which has been a little bit weird because it's an island. It's not called the nimbus, it's called nimbus. But there you go. Your guess is as good as ours, says the fisherman who gave you the pincer. We lost a few good boats when the nimbus came down. One of the bathyspheres, too. We tried to reach them, but the waters became too choppy, and a huge storm came in, pushing us away from the island. We had to bring all the boats up as fast as possible. You're curious to know what happened to the nimbus after it landed in the water. Okay. It was still afloat when I brought my boat up, chimes in another fisherman. But things down there were getting very dangerous. All this fog came in, and gale force winds. Never seen it that bad. You decide to ask the fisherman how you can get down to the nimbus. Turn to 3. I suppose if the island has fallen down to the water and now is floating, it becomes like a ship, and so you can call it the nimbus, I guess. Still a bit weird, though. It's gone from being the island of Nimbus to being the ship, the Nimbus. Right. 331. Just make lots of space here. Okay. $331. Thank you very much. I wouldn't if I were you, officer, not until the storms pass. But if you're hell-bent on reaching it, I'd say that you'd have to take one of our bathyspheres. That means going to see Matix. You can usually find her either at the main bathysphere shed at the east dock or her home near the north flyer port. If you have the Incas ledger page from Cirrus and want to ask them about it, turn to 308. To look for Matix at the east dock, turn to 242. To head for Matix's home in northern Incas, turn to 161. So now we've got a little bit more choice, yeah? Now that ledger page is one that seemed to the one I found on the guy who was, if I remember correctly, that was the guy who was the sorry, interrupting myself with a sip of tea there. Right, so there was this guy in the watch who was sleeping when I arrived at the watch house, and he seems to be in on it. So he had also a wasn't that where I found it? A piece of a ledger that said Commander Matthias Tellerman. Where is he? I think is that the one? Or was that somewhere else now? Anyway, I found a piece of a ledger that asked about Matthias Tellerman. So I'm going to ask them about that. 308. 242 East Dock or 161 Matix home. Ledger. Okay. So ledger page. Let's have a little gander. Oh, I met this charming creature last time. You show the fisherman the ledger page you found on Cirrus. It's from here, one of the men confirms, peering at it closely. Don't recognize that name, though. It's no one from Incas. Might be something to do with that ship from the mainland that went down a few months back. Don't know much about it. Maybe ask around. To look for Matix at the east dock, turn to 242. To head for Matix's home, go to 161. So I'm gonna go with Matix's home, perhaps first. Yeah. When asked for directions to Matix's house, everyone you speak to tells you to follow the sound of banging and cussing. You soon hear noises that sound like a wheelbarrow being hit with a brick. Thunk, clunk, clang. And italics, just like I pointed out this in my last playthrough. Every time there are sounds, or certainly it seems like it's intended that every time there are words to do with sounds, they are put in italics, even if that's a normal English word. Now, when it's completely onomatopoeia like these ones, thunk, clonk, clang, that's fine. But when it's an English word as well, like whirring, sometimes it has been in italics, sometimes it hasn't. So it's been a little bit inconsistent. But I can see what she's doing there, and I think it makes sense. I think yeah. And the voice saying, "You son of a rancid hogmule, you fetid pile of badger excrement. Work, damn you, work." Bang, crush, thunk. Ouch, my thumb. Well, serves him right there. Instant karma. There we are. At the source of the sound, you find a bathysphere hanging from the rafters of a large workshop attached to a much smaller house and surrounded by every conceivable tool and mechanical part. The bathysphere is a spherical craft made from reinforced metal, with small porthole-like windows in its sides and a larger one at the front that also doubles as an entry hatch. You notice small storm crystals embedded in the bottom and large mechanical claws stretching forward from each side. The nameplate on the side of the bathysphere reads Barnacle. You call out Matix's name, turn to 230. Okay, so 230. Oh, there we are, that's the bathysphere there. Goblin head pokes out of the guts of the bathysphere, covered in grime and looking very frustrated. "You don't happen to have a what's-it on you, do you?" she asks you in an exasperated tone. "You're pretty sure you don't, even if you knew what one was." "How about a thingy?" Still nothing, and you're just as confused. I think what she's really looking for is a whatchamacallit, possibly. Or a thingamabob as well. Or a thingamajig might be as well, so you never know. You explain to her that you have no idea what she's asking for, but you do have a pressing need to commandeer the barnacle in the name of the Skywatch. She emerges from the bathysphere, wiping her hands. "Is that right? Well, seeing as this is the only bathysphere that's even partway running right now, officer, I'd say you need to do a bit more work than just commandeer it." You apologize for your brusqueness and tell her that you're the only Skywatch officer still active on the archipelago and you're trying to find out what happened on Nimbus. Nimbus, without the, finally, again. You need a way to get down to the island and navigate the rough waters. Matix looks you up and down appraisingly. "I like the cut of your jib, officer. At least someone around here is trying to do something and not running around like a headless chicken. Tell you what, if you can find me a thingy and either a doobry or a what's-it, I can finish repairing the barnacle and then I'll lend her to you." So, a doobry, I don't know the doobry, but a what's-it and thingies, yeah, sure. She points towards a small contraption that looks like those you've seen at the Goblin flyer ports. "You can charge your hover crystal in that," she says. 1 gold piece per charge. Very reasonable, I'd say. If you have the strange metal object from the Cirrus Watchhouse, turn to 62. Do I have a strange metal object from the Cirrus Watchhouse? I don't think I did, but I'll just double check now and see if there's something I missed when I was in the Cirrus Watchhouse. Let's see. Just give me a moment. Thought I'd look everywhere there, unless that's something you can only get if 371, 335. Okay, so that's something I actually didn't do. That would have got me another item there. So, yeah. Right. Where are we? Let's see. 230 was it? 230. Right. Right. So I don't have a straight metal object from the Sirius Watch House. So that is 62. Strange metal object. 2. Not. Okay, so I'm going to go to 2. It's time to look somewhere else. Charge your hovers and fly to Esperitas, the Isle of Technomancy, turn to 384. If you don't have any gold pieces, you can't continue no further and your adventure is over. Okay, so I have to go to Esperitas in that case. So I need to deduct 1 gold piece, and I've got 11. There actually is quite a big chance in one place to actually lose all your gold, and then you end up with only 2 gold pieces, so you really have to make them count. But I managed to keep mine, luckily, and so I've got that still. So I'm going then to Asperitas. 384 to find a thingamajig, or a what's it. You grudgingly give 1 gold piece to Matix and ask her to charge up your hovers so you can fly to Esperitas. Sure thing, put your storm crystal in the slot and I'll fill her up. Once your storm crystal is fully charged, Matix gives some final instructions. A bit like charging your battery on your phone, isn't it? Oh. Now, once you find a thingy, and either a debris or a what's it, bring them back to me here. There should be a couple of places you can charge your hovers on the other islands. You strap on the hovers and take off for Esperitas, the island of Technomancy. Turn to 270. So obviously this is the next part of the adventure really is to go into the Bathysphere and then go on from there, apparently. So I just need to go to the other islands to sort out some things first. And I could have skipped it if I'd had the what's it already, or the metal-y thingy from the watch house. Okay. Feeling a little more in control of your hovers now, you head in the direction of Esperitas. This is the island of Technomancy, the mechanical magic that underpins the levitation enchantments of the archipelago. From the air, the island is a mess of workshops and laboratories, from which a cacophony of clangs and thunks mixed with bubbling and fizzing noises can be heard. And again, all these ones that are sounds are in italics, including the ones that are regular English words. You're close to landing when you hear a loud bird-like scream, which also weirdly is in italics, even though that's just a sound and not an onomatopoeia. Someone's being a little bit inconsistent. Anyway, I shouldn't really say much more about it because I've said enough about that now. And 2 harpies descend on you from out of the sky. You have no choice but to fight them together before you can land. Right, so I need to do 1 at a time, and so we got 7, 6, 6, 6. Well, we're both at the same time, which is a little bit tricky. So we have a 7, 6 and a 6, 6, and I am currently at 12, 18. So, so I'll be attacking the one with the highest skill first. So I've got a 5-point advantage against that harpy, and I got a 6 against the other. So first harpy rolls 10, I roll 10, so I hit it. And the second one I'm just defending myself against rolls 5, and I roll 3, so that's fine. Next round, harpy rolls 11, I roll 5. That means the harpy hits me. Second harpy rolls 5, I roll 5, so that's fine. First harpy rolls a 9, I roll a 10, so that's me hitting the harpy. Second harpy rolls a 10, and I roll a 6, which means I successfully defend myself against it. First harpy rolls 7, I roll an 8. First harpy is dead. I'll just defend myself against the second harpy, and I actually managed to get hit by it. And then it says, if you manage to kill the first harpy, you get a chance to pull the second one to the ground. Roll 1 die. If you roll a 1 to 3, then you cause it 2 stamina points of damage instantly, etc. So 6. 4 stamina points. Okay, so the second harpy has then got 2 stamina left, and I've got a 6 skill point advantage. She rolls 6, I roll an 8, and the second harpy is also dead. I've got 14 stamina left, and I go to 156. Let's see. The monstrous harpies lie dead at your feet. You can't help but think that this wasn't a random attack. They were lying in wait for you, but you try not to dwell on this fact too long. Your eyes and ears are drawn to a gathering of goblins who are arguing amongst themselves in a small square. We need to get down there. It's too dangerous. We must wait for the storm to pass. Then get the Stormborn to go down there. They say there's a ward preventing them from getting close to Nimbus. You consider introducing yourself, but you can't get a word in edgeways. We need to come up with a plan. Who put you in charge? Well, somebody's got to be. But why should it be you? I never said it should be me. You look around at the squabbling goblins and know that you stand a better chance of sprouting wings from your ears than they do of agreeing on a plan. You spy a young goblin busy cleaning vials and jars outside one of the workshops. You tell the goblin you're a member of the Skywatch, and a look of horror crosses the goblin's face. He is so shocked he drops the vial he's been cleaning and it smashes on the floor. It wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it. It was Paxlow and Pox. Well, probably. I mean, I don't know for sure, but... He babbles. This is quite a reaction. You ask the goblin his name, and it tells you that it's Yurik. To ask Yurik what he's referring to, turn to 135. To lie and tell Yurik that you know he was behind it, turn to 372. To help Yurik pick up the pieces of the broken vial, turn to 195. Okay, so now we got some more interesting choices here after the initial linearity of the game. And this seems like they're more interesting. So we've got... So 135, ask, 372, lie. That's a bit mean, though, isn't it? 195, help. You know what? I'm going to help him pick up the pieces of the broken vial. Maybe he'll think I'm friendly, which I am. You help Yurik pick up the broken pieces of the vial. He looks relieved. Thank you, officer. I'm so clumsy. That's the third I've broken today, the goblin says worriedly. They're going to start taking it out of my wages if I'm not careful. Well, I would have taken it out of his wages already if he'd broken 3 in one day. He'll have the sack. Expensive stuff. They're going to start taking out my wages if I'm not careful. I've just been so jittery lately. To ask him what's got him on edge, turn to 4. To give him 1 gold piece to help him pay for the damage, turn to 169. Oh, that's an interesting one. 169. Give gold. Ask. Actually, I'll give him a gold piece. I've got plenty now. And they definitely think that I'm a good friend of his. You give him 1 gold piece and apologize for frightening him. Most appreciated, officer. Look, what I said earlier about not having anything to do with Nimbus falling, I didn't, but I think I know who did. Goblin by the name of Pox, or could be his brother Paxlow. Several months back, they started putting together a team to go work in Krazik's workshop on Nimbus. The young goblin seems to want to unburden his soul, so you let him talk. A plum job, double wages, but I smelled something off about it. If we took the job, we weren't allowed to tell anyone what we were working on, and we had to sleep in the workshop. I liked my bed too much to give that up, so I said no. They didn't like that. I've not seen them around here since the Nimbus went down. Look, wherever Pox and Paxlow go, trouble follows. That's all I'm saying. Anything else I can help you with? But be quick about it. If you have the code word Hazi on your adventure sheet, turn to 257. I do indeed. If not, and you want to leave, you can head west towards where the residents of Espiritas live, or north, further into the maze of workshops and laboratories. So, So 3 options there. So 1, 2, and 3. I'll just do them like that on my map. That is slightly outside of shot. Okay, I'll move my camera. Oh, my paper a little bit that way. Okay, so 257 Hazy. I do have that one. So 293 residential or 111 workshops. Okay, so I do have Hazy, so I'm going to go to 257. Okay. You ask Yurik where you can find Elder Technomancer Vizig's home. To the west, in an old bell tower. Right, I got to get going, officer. Good luck. He takes a full vial and passes it to you. It's a greater potion of might. Oh, I forgot I had that. I have a potion of might. I could have used that against the lightning serpent. See, if there'd been fewer items on my sheet, it would have been easier to keep track of these things. So I've got a greater potion of might. It will raise your attack strength by 2 points for the duration of 1 battle, so +2 strength, and will also restore 2 stamina points. Let's see, so +2 stamina. Also gain 1 luck point, so +1 luck. Okay, so that sounds useful. Let's see, I got 14 now. Okay. He then heads back into the workshop. Write the code word Vizig. So I've got Vizig on your adventure sheet. You decide where to go next. There's the residential area, which is a little greener and quieter, and the workshop and laboratory section of the island, which is busier and more closely built up. You also notice a nearby device which charges up storm crystals. You can use it to get charge and return to Matex and Incus when you need to. Do you want to head west towards where the residents of Espiritus live, or north, further into the maze of workshops and laboratories? So I think I want to, first of all, eat something. So I'm going to do... how much do I need now? I need 4 points. I can do crab meat and get up to 17. So there we are. And I must remember I got potions of might for next time, because I would have won the battle against the lightning serpent the first time if I'd remembered. Anyway, so we have so it's Vizig there, and then we have options of going 111 labs 293. So west. So of course we know that Vizig lives over in the west. So I'll go out. Maybe start with Vizig. So I'll go 293 then. I presume I can go back and do the other stuff after. You decide to head west to the residential area. Everywhere you go, there are groups of goblins, humans, the occasional stormborn, and other species discussing what happened at the Nimbus. The goblins are... the Nimbus again. The goblins are taking what happened very personally, as it seems to be their technomancy which somehow failed and caused the crash. You're moving down an alleyway when you hear a buzzing sound. If you have the code word I spy written on your adventure sheet, turn to 317. I do not. So that is 317. I spy, or 357 not. So I don't have that, so I'm going to 357. You stare at the thing making the buzzing noise. It looks like a metal eye about the size of a grapefruit, and instead of an iris, you realize that the metal contraption has a large lens. It is held up by small wings reminiscent of your hovers. The eye zips around, blinking at you. It's unnerving, and you can't shake the feeling that you're being spied on. Suddenly it flies off. You decide to follow it. Roll 1 die. Okay, so we got 1d6 roll there. So we have 1, to 3 options based on that row, and that is 76, 1 to 2, 142, 3 to 4, or 339, 5 to 6. And I roll a 5. And 339. You attempt to track the flying eye from we'll get a bit of a typo there, from below on the streets of Esperitas. You manage to follow it surreptitiously to a cluster of houses on the outskirts of the residential area. Turn to 38. So 38. You observe the flying eye zipping into a small hatch in the side of a ramshackle wooden house. You have no idea who it belongs to. Do you want to knock on the front door, quietly go around to the back of the house and see if you can find another way in? That reminds me of House of Hell for some reason. Okay. Right, so. Two options. There we are. So 102 front or 287 back. I'm going to go around the back and have a look. Let's hope it's a bit better than the kitchen entrance of House of Hell. You slip round to the back of the house. The door is slightly ajar. You push it open forcefully and see a terrified goblin almost jump out of his skin. He is dressed in Esperitas worker clothes, and you also notice he's wearing a belt with an ornate brass buckle with a P engraved on it. So that could be one of my praxes or whatever the name was of the other guy. You tell him to stay still, but he shouts out a few strange words, unlocks the front door, and bolts outside. You hear something clattering down the rickety wooden stairs, accompanied by high-pitched laughter. Suddenly you see 2 disc-like creatures, each with 4 hands sprouting from their sides. They are holding little knives and are cartwheeling towards you with murder in their eyes. And it's 2 wheelies. Yes, and the wheelies, you remember those? Those are from Citadel of Chaos. Let's see if I can find a wheelie here. Oh, there we are. They are these things here. So they were invented by Steve Jackson for the Citadel of Chaos, and obviously it's one of Rihanna Patch's favorite fighting fantasy creatures, and she included them in this book. So let's see. Now it doesn't say that you fight them at the same time or not. Is that to mean that they are fighting them in turn? Let's see, that's what it says here now. Well, at the end, of course, not the beginning. So, fighting more than one creature. Well, it's supposed to say whether you fight them one at a time or not, but it doesn't say, so I'll just have to presume then that it is one at a time, because it's always specified, isn't it, when it's both at the same time. So the default is one at a time. So I'm going to do one at a time. It's not hugely different, probably. So 6, 6, 6, 6, and I have 12, 17. So I've got a 6-point advantage on both battles. He rolls 3, 4, 8, 10, 8, 4. That's the first one dead. I'm just doing this quite quickly now because it's quite easy. Ooh, rolled a 12. I rolled a 7. That's still a hit on him. 7, 6, and 7, 11. So that's the second one also dead. Nice and quick. So 6, 6, 6, 6. 358. That's where I go to when I win. 3, 5, 8. I think I need a sip of tea now. The wheelies crash to the floor, rock back and forth for a bit, and then lie still. You wonder what they were guarding. The ground floor of the house is so full of hoarded objects that it's hard to see what might be useful to your investigation. You discern that the house has at least 2 messy occupants. Your eye is drawn to a leather bag hanging off a hook. The goblin was in such a hurry to get away from you that he must have forgotten it. The name inscribed on the red bag reads Paxlow. You search Paxlow's bag and find a potion of fire oil, a piece of dried fruit, and 2 gold pieces. Okay. So, fire oil, we've got 2 of those now. Dried fruit, let's see. Dried fruit is 3 stamina points. Dried fruits plus 3. The inventory is so messy now. I don't like that. Okay. I think I would have needed a bigger character sheet for this. Okay. If you want to explore the firearm can be used to light fires, but it can be also be used an opponent at the start of an attack round and will automatically cause 3 stamina points of damage. It's also something I must remember I have, because I had 1 from before, now I got 2, so that's very useful. Possibly. Okay. Okay, if you want to explore the upper floor of the house, turn to 350. If you want to leave the property, turn to 149. Well, there's no way I'm leaving now without exploring the top floor. So there was already a hint there that maybe they were guarding something. So upper floor and 149 leaves. I'm going to explore the top floor. That rhymes, so it must be true. Okay. As you climb the wooden stairs, you can hear a rhythmic metallic grating sound. You reach the upper room and see 2 beds. They are both unmade and unoccupied. Near the end of the room is a hatch connected to a large cage in which you can see 3 other metal I Spy creatures sitting on perches like birds. They seem to be sleeping, making small snoring noises as they dream of whatever it is that large metal eyeballs dream of. Maybe they dream of mechanical sheep. Do androids dream of mechanical sheep? Nearby is a large crystal ball, and surrounding it are pages and pages of notes and sketches. You look harder at the sleeping I Spies and see that there are tiny storm crystals inside them. You can also see that the perch is made of metal and wires connected to a box-like device with a prominent lever. The I Spies are perching on little nests, which you realize must be charging the crystals. If you have the code word I Spy on your adventure sheet, turn to 29. I don't. If you don't have the code word, turn to 315. So, again, I don't have the right code word. Don't have code word clearance. So 29. I Spy or 315. Not so. No I Spy code word for me. You pick up the sketches and realize with a shiver that they're drawings of you. There's even one of you walking around the Spiritas that must have been drawn quite recently. You can also see notes that detail your movements around the islands. Whoever lives in this house has been very interested in what you've been up to. You are filled with rage. You look at the contraption charging the I Spies and see that it regulates the level of charge the storm crystals are receiving. Do you want to try to overload the charge and destroy the I Spies, or would you prefer to explore the ground floor if you haven't already done so? I haven't really explored the ground floor, have I? Or did I explore the ground floor earlier? Really? It was a bit unclear the way it was written, whether you actually explored it. Sort of have, haven't I? I'm just wondering if it's going to be the same thing. You can't... Yeah. So I suppose I'll just have to try to overcharge them. Let's see. So if I want to overload the charge. So I want to... So 315. So the options are... leave the house is an option. Excuse me. And look at the ground floor. Okay, so 389 is overload. 182 ground floor, or 149 leave. So I'm going to try to overload the I Spies and maybe break them, see if that works. Pull the lever. There's a whirring and a thrumming. And again, the whirring and thrumming, that's a little bit like the sound the TARDIS makes, isn't it? That's a thrumming sound, and whirring and thrumming. Then all three I Spies emit a piercing shriek and explode, showering you in bits of metal and wire. Roll 1 die and divide the result by 2, rounding halves up. So that is a 3. That's my stamina damage there. So I'm down to 14. You pick up an interesting looking part from the device, which seems to be undamaged. It looks like it could be a what's it. The what's it you're in the shoot. That's a bit sort of daft, isn't it, calling these things what's it? How do you tell a what's it from a doodad anyway? Does anyone know? What is the difference between what's it and the doodad and whatchamacallits and the thingamajigs? I thought the difference was academical, so obviously it's not. A what's it is a very specific thing. I suppose it's meant to be funny, and it is a little bit. Okay. So I got a what's it, and I get a what's it minus stamina. Okay. If you haven't explored the ground floor yet and wanted to, turn to 182, leave the properties under 139. Alternatively, you can go to the nearest stone crystal charging station. If you decide to do this, make a note of this section number, as you will be able to return directly to this location if you decide to revisit Asperitas. Oh, okay, so that's useful. Okay, this makes more sense than some of my previous. Okay, so this actually is what should have been done earlier as well. There should have been these sort of return points. And then turn to 379. So where's the 379 charging station? Okay, so what I should do then, because now I want to go and repair the Bathysphere because I got a what's it. So 389, and I'll just make a note of that, like so. So that's a revisit spot 389, and then I go to 379. So as this Asperitas revisit point. So Asperitas revisit point. You reach the nearest charging station. It requires 1 gold piece, so I'm down to 9. If you have no gold, etc., blah blah blah. If you have explored all you can and still have no gold, fly to Matix on Incus, deduct 1 gold piece, and turn to 226. Okay, so I'm going to 226. I'll just put that there for now. And now see when it connects up to something else. 226. There we are. Everything looks different from the air, but you listen out for the sound of banging and cussing, and soon manage to guide your hovers to Matix's workshop. The goblin pops her head out, grinning from beneath her usual grimy exterior. Well, what have you got for me? If you have located the thingy, turn to 125. If you have obtained a what's it, turn to 375. I still need a thingy, of course. I've almost forgotten about the thingy. And now I can see where the twee comes in, because this is a little bit twee, to be honest. You hand the requested object to Matix, and she holds it almost reverentially. Wow, that is one of the best I've ever seen. This will definitely work. If you have a thingy and haven't already given it to Matix, you can do so now. If you have now given Matix everything she requested, turn to 187. If you haven't collected all of the items Matix needs yet, you will need to get your hovers charged up again. Turn to 396. Okay, so 396. Okay, 396. You tell Matix that you still have an item to collect. If you have at least 1 gold piece, blah blah blah, and turn to 270. So minus 1 gold. Go to 270. 8 gold. 270. There we are. Okay. Oh, am I back at... Oh. Okay, so it would make sense to actually stay until you find the thingy because now you have to fight the harpies again. Okay. And I'm going to need to change the pages. So I've got 14, so I'm at 12, 14. Harpies are 7, 6, and 6, 6, and 12, 14. And I'm fighting them both at the same time, so 8 versus 6, that is me hitting the first harpy. Second harpy misses me. First harpy rolls 7, I roll 3. That means I'm hitting it. Second harpy, 8, 8, misses. First harpy, and that is a draw. Second harpy misses. First harpy, I kill it. And second harpy, I roll 1 die. I give it 2 stamina damage for pulling it to the ground. He rolls 5, I roll 9. It's down to 2. And 9 versus 5, which is just enough to kill it. Okay. So, nice and quick and easy. And then I go back to 389 because that's where I left off last time. Okay. So that means I leave the property and I go to 149. Now I'm back at the praxis house. So I'm going to go to 149. You leave the house and ponder where your investigation should take you next. You hear a howl from a nearby coppice of trees, and an ape-like howl cat swings down from the branches and lollops towards you, razor-sharp teeth bared and slashing claws ready to tear you apart. Each time the howl cat suffers a hit, it will utter a ferocious battle cry that will deduct 1 point from your attack strength for the duration of the next attack round. However, this also reduces the howl cat's stamina by 1 additional point. Unusual mechanic, but interesting, very interesting, I think. So, that is an 8, 9, and an asterisk there for special rules. And then when we win that battle, it will go to 302. So I'll just put 302 over there. Right, so we have 8, 9 versus 12, 14. I really should eat something soon again. So we got a 4 skill point advantage. He rolls 11. I roll 5. Okay, so I'm down to 12. 6 versus 6. Okay, so I hit him for 2, but he does shriek, so it goes down to 3, and I have 1 less attack strength the next round. So he rolls a 3, I roll 5. That means I win that round. He takes another 3 damage, and I'm actually basically down to 11 for the rest of the battle now, unless he hits me. And he rolls a 4, and I roll a 9, and so he is actually dead. Okay, so and I go to 302. Maybe let's get 302. And I see I'm sort of sliding away from the right location here for my map. I'll just try to keep this in shot now. It's a little bit different now that the frame is actually more square than I'm used to. You manage to dispatch the howl cat, but can't help feeling like someone sent it after you. You decide where to go next. If you have the code word VISIG written on your adventure sheet, I do. Don't I? Yes. Turn to 126. If not, turn to 214. Okay, so that is VISIG question mark, and then we have yes and no. So 126 yes, and 214 no. So I got that. I go to 126. You see the bell tower which Yurik mentioned in the distance, but you're increasingly feeling like you need to get to a more populous part of the island rather than keep wandering around out here on your own. To head to the bell tower, turn to 352. To head northeast back to the maze of workshops and laboratories, turn to 111. So we got the option of taking us to 3, 5, 2, bell tower. Although now it's sort of warning me not to do that in a way. And then, or go to 111, just down there. I'll check out the bell tower. You decide to head to the bell tower. After all, you told Hazi you would check on Elder Techromancer Vizig. It takes a bit of time to reach the tower. But thankfully there are no more ambushes. You clang the brass bell by the door, but there's no answer. Either Vizig's not at home, or something's happened to him. You test the door and discover it's locked. It looks strong. You square up to it. Test your stamina as subtracting 2 from the dice roll if you have an axe or club-like weapon with you. Do I really have anything club-like? I don't think so. Well, pincer. The pincer is quite club-like, isn't it? I'll take that as a club-like thing. Okay, so... so we have test stamina. And then we have... 294 fail, or 234 pass. Okay, so 3 dice minus 2. And my stamina was not that good because I haven't eaten yet, have I? Still 14, isn't it? Okay, so 9 plus 6, 15 minus 2 is 13. I actually just made it because I used a club-like weapon. So I go to 234. I probably should eat something. Okay, so I'm going to eat, let's see, I need to get it from 14 to 18, so I need 2 plus 2 things. So that's 1 dried fish and 1 stink fruit, and we're up to 18 stamina. Okay. 2, 3, 4. Yes, the door finally breaks and you enter the tower. You find yourself in a relatively bare stone chamber with stairs leading upwards. You begin your ascent. One step creaks ominously when you put your weight on it. You hear a faintly audible click and darts fly out of the wall at you. Test your skill. Okay, skill is 11. And I rolled 11. Ooh. So test skill, and I'll put the results over there, and that is 309 success and 173 fail. So success, and we go to 309. You successfully defect the darts with your cloak. Well, deflect, it should have been. Another typo, there's more of them now. This is the first edition after all, but yeah, and a spell check wouldn't have picked up on that. And of course, this is why you don't use spell checkers. You use a real human being for reading the copy. Right, you need proofreaders. Luckily, it's reinforced with fine light wires, making it very durable. You continue upwards, unsurprised that someone like Elder Technomancer Vizig would have traps in his home. You reach a door. Turn to 83. Okay, so 83. The door looks too solid to break. Next to the door there is a sequence of carved numbers. 1491835. Below are the numbers 0 to 9 on carved blocks, which you notice have little springs under them. You're guessing that you have to enter the next number in the sequence. Once you have worked out what it should be, turn to that section number. If you cannot solve the puzzle, then you have no choice but to leave the bell tower and head northeast back into the maze of workshops and laboratories. Turn to 111. So we have 111 here. Or solve the puzzle. So 1491835. So Okay, let's have a little look at these numbers now. So sometimes these things are really easy, but then you don't see it, and then it's tricky. So the difference here is 3, 5, 9, and then it's 17. Okay. Hmm. 1491835. So this is bigger than the 3. The interval there is 5, which is the same as 2 times 3 minus 1. So 2 times 3 minus 1 is 5. 2 times 5 minus 1 is 9. 2 times 9 minus 1 is 17. 2 times 17 minus 1 is 33, which brings us to 68. That could be the pattern. I don't think that's the only pattern that's valid there, but I'll go with 68 and see if that works. So 68. Let's try that. You enter the correct combination. The door swings open. You're in Vizig's home. It's a rather cluttered but cozy, with a little fireplace and a rocking chair. But the elder technomancer doesn't seem to be here. You hear a noise and something winged drops down the chimney into the cold fireplace. Do you want to attempt to hide behind some furniture, or do you want to stand your ground, even though you have no idea what it might be? Okay. Let's go down this way now. It's a bit of space down here I can use. So 319 hide, or 343 stand ground. I want to stand my ground, actually. Yes, I want to stand my ground. Damn it. You decide to stand your ground as a winged creature shakes the ash off itself, and you realize that it's a winged gremlin, a particularly nasty little creature. It sees you and flies towards you, screeching wildly. Winged gremlin, of course, that is from Warlock of Firetop Mountain, one of the early creatures. I think it was one of these people. Was it the... was there a picture of that? Hang on, I'll just have a look now. Winged gremlin, winged gremlin. I'm not sure if there was a picture of that, or if there was... Because he was in a picture with someone else. If there was one. I can't remember for sure now. Wasn't it here somewhere? Oh, yes. It was there, actually. Well, this little creature there looks a bit like a bat. That is a winged gremlin. And that is the one that's there. Okay, so that is also... So we now got references to Citadel of Chaos and the Warlock of Firetop Mountain in this book, which is quite nice. At least it shows that Rhianna Pratchett has read both of those, which is a good starting point. Okay. So the Winged Gremlin, and I've got 7 skill point advantage. I need to hit it twice, so I think I'll just do that quickly. So 4 and 7, so that's me hitting hit. 8 and 9, so that is it dead. And let's see, 3, 43, 5, 4, and win. So we go to 122. You pick up the paper the creature dropped. Did I have a piece of paper? That wasn't obvious. Strangely, it appears to be blank. You take it to the desk to examine it more closely. The desk is littered with scroll-covered papers, and most of the writing is illegible. Nearby, you see a couple of squeezed lemon halves and a small lamp. That means invisible ink. Yes, because you can write with lemon, and if you heat it up, you can actually see what's written. So that means rub the lemon over the paper. That would ruin everything, of course. Light the lamp and hold the paper close to it. That does work. And leave the tower and head northeast back to the maze of workshops and laboratories. Okay, so it's useful to know a little bit about invisible ink. You can also use milk, by the way, but lemon juice, better. Okay. So we have options. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'll put that over there. So 2, 5, 3, rub lemon. I wonder if you do that, whether you'll be notified that you are completely on the wrong track. Light or... Oh, hang on. That's not supposed to be an option because this is 111 again, which means I'm going down here on this track there. Okay. So I'm going to hold it up to the light and see if I can heat it up enough to see what it says. You light the lamp and hold the paper up to the heat. After a while, writing begins to appear. Vizig. Krasik is mad. I know that now. Pox doesn't believe me. He is committed to the cause. Krasik must be stopped. It's the only way to save my brother. Please find a way. Paxlow. Whatever was going on with Paxlow and Pox, a rift seems to have developed between the brothers. Leave the tower and head northeast back into the maze of workshops and laboratories. Finally, so there's a clue there. No code words on that one, interestingly. Okay, so we go back to 111. Well, we finally go to 111, I should say, because there's been so many options now of going to 111, and there we are. There's another one there, and go up there. Okay. So, 111. You decide to head towards the maze of workshops and laboratories, even though you're not sure where to start. This is probably a good place to find a thingamy, by the way, or a thingy. I think I prefer thingamy to thingy. Yeah, thingamy. I think it just sounds better. Thingy could be something else. It could be a euphemism for something, for instance. So, thingamy, on the other hand, is not a euphemism for anything. It's just a mism, I suppose. It's just an ism. It's just something you say when you don't know what you're supposed to say, whereas thingy could be something else, and yeah, very specific. Right, so but I digress. Yes, I do. As you walk through the bustling alleyways, you listen to the gossips to see if you can find a lead. Sure enough, you hear talk about a strange piece of metal which fell on one of the old workshops to the east. If you want to head off to investigate for yourself, turn to 325. If you want to head towards where the residents of the Spiritas live, if you haven't done so already, turn to 293. If you are ready to leave the island and return to Incus, turn to 379. So, obviously, there's only one of these options left that I haven't done already. 379 indeed is actually up there, so I'm going to just do a quick track up there, which leaves the only thing I haven't done, which is 325, and that must be a thingy. Right, so you head for the old workshop, suspecting that maybe this fallen object came from the Nimbus explosion. It takes you a while to find it, but when you do, there's a small crowd gathered nearby. The object looks like a larger metal boulder. A goblin is trying to attach some kind of device to it. The device has a charged stone crystal inside it, so he wants to lift it up, I suppose, and take it with him, as indeed you can do, I suppose. It's like a hover device. I think that's quite a nice technology thing with the storm crystals used for sort of levitation. Right, you ask a bystander what's going on. It's technomancy, but nothing like anyone's seen before, they explain. Nix is going to give it a charge up and see what happens. That sounds like a terrible idea. He has already half destroyed his workshop, so he's keen to get rid of it. Will you tell Nix that this isn't a good idea? Let Nix charge a metal boulder and see what happens. I'm going to tell him that is an absolutely ridiculously terrible idea. Although he's the expert, isn't he? Shouldn't he know better? So let charge. Or 19. Bad idea. Okay, here's a terrible idea. Okay, so I'm going to say it's a bad idea. You tell Nix that you don't think it's a good idea for him to be doing this. This thing half destroyed my workshop, he grumbles. I want to see it gone, or at least moved. Once it's off my property, it's all yours, officer. You reluctantly agree and let Nix charge up the boulder. Lose 1 luck point. Okay. -1 luck. Okay, so luck is now down to 8. Still serviceable, I guess. And that means that this is actually one of the few things that I'm 100% sure you shouldn't be doing, because everything else so far has been quite linear and you sort of need to do most of it. So let's see. The crowd stands back as Nix places the charger against the large metal boulder and pulls the lever on the device. There's a humming noise. Nothing happens. He pulls the level up another notch. The humming gets louder. Suddenly the boulder rises into the air. It looks like it's floating, but then it sprouts legs. Oddly, there are 5 of them. The boulder flips over and you realize what it is. A giant metal hand. The crowd screams and immediately flees at great speed, as does Nix. You're left alone with a giant metal hand. It skitters crab-like across the ground towards you. It suddenly rears up and you realize it's going to attack. So it's a bit like Thing from Addams Family. So maybe this has something to do with Thingy. So Thingy maybe is a part of Thing. We'll see. But first of all, 250 and we are 811. That's quite a lot of stamina. Each time you make a successful hit against the giant hand, it does its battle move, which is to leap at you with all 5 digits outstretched. Roll 1 die for each digit. If you roll 1 or 2, the digit hits you for 1 extra stamina point of damage. But if you roll 3 to 6, you deflect the blow and the giant metal hand loses 1 stamina point. Roll 1 or 2, 5 times. Okay, this is quite a hard battle. I'm going to use my fire oil probably on this thing. But the fire oil, that wasn't in addition to normal attack, was it? Or was it in addition, or was it instead of? See if I can find it again now. So fire oil, where did you get the first fire oil? It was 238. I'll just have a quick look now and see. Can be used at the start of a battle, it says. Okay, so I can use the start of the battle. Okay, so I'm going to use the fire oil, 1 bottle of fire oil to reduce stamina to 8 before the battle even starts. So I should have eaten, shouldn't I? Okay, so I've got 12, 14. Hang on, did I not eat myself up to... No, I did go up to 18, didn't I? Yeah, I did eat. I'd forgotten that I remembered. So 12, 18, and he has got 8 and 8, isn't it? Okay, so fire oil, 3 damage. So I've got 1 fire oil left. So it's got 8, 8. Right, so I've got a 4 skill point advantage, and he rolls a 9. I roll an 11, so I hit him. But then he does his battle move. I just have to remove now. First, he goes down to 6. So I suppose I've done a save game now as well, by the way. Definitely. Oh, I see. So actually he might take more damage as well. Okay, so now I have to roll 5 times. Oops. I think I lost my die. Hang on. Oh, I see it. Okay, so that's 2 times. It's down to 4. 4 times. It's down to 2. 5 times. I didn't read it properly because obviously I wouldn't have needed to do the fire. Okay, so next round. He rolls 6, I roll 10. He does this special move, and I suppose once he's dead, I should just... Yeah, no, I'm not going to roll for the rest of it then. Right. So I win the battle, and I go to 108. Let's see, maybe I should make room for that somewhere over here. So 108. You dispense the last destructive blow, and the 5 digits of the hand shudder and go still. To your surprise, a dead goblin falls out of it. You notice the creature is wearing a belt with an ornate brass buckle with the letter P engraved on it. Oh, it's one of the brothers, isn't it? There's an anguished cry. Another goblin rushes up and kneels beside the body. He has tears in his eyes and is wearing the same kind of belt with a matching P. He shakes the dead goblin's body. Why did you do it? Why wouldn't you listen to me? I told you it was too dangerous. You give the goblin space to grieve for a moment and then ask to speak to him. He suddenly throws a handful of powder in your face and you black out. Lose 2 stamina points. Okay, so stamina down to 16. And I'm still alive, and I go to 198. By the time you come round, both the goblins have vanished. You inspect the giant metal hand, which is now thankfully inert. There is an interesting looking part dangling off the side of it. You give it a tug and it comes away in your hand. You're no expert, but you think that this might well be a thingy. Add the thingy to your adventure sheet. You decide what to do next. You can head to the west towards where the residents of the Spiritas live. Been there, done that. So that's 293. Okay, so... Or you can go to the nearest Storm Crystal charging station, and then you go 379. So that means that I don't need to revisit now, because now I've done all I need to do here. So 379 there. It's almost impossible to miss. It seems to be almost impossible to miss the important stuff in this one. You just go in circles until you actually got everything, which is very different to your normal fighting fantasy game books where you have to start over again. But then again, this is a really long adventure now, because I've played for almost 4 hours, actually. Including a little bit of aside chatting, of course, but not that much, to be honest. So it is also the longest one I've played in terms of how long it actually takes to go through the game when you do the right thing. But of course, I probably played longer some of the other ones. Anyway, so you reach the nearest charging station, requiring 1 gold. So I'm down to 7 gold pieces. Fly to Matix on Incas, and we go to 226. Okay, so 226. 226, there we are. And let's see, so then we are here again, 226. Everything looks different from the air, but you listen out for the sound of banging and cussing and soon manage to guide your hovers to Matix's workshop. The goblin pops her head out, grinning from beneath her usual grimy exterior. Well, what have you got for me? If you have located the thingy, turn to 125. If you have obtained a what's it, I've already got the what's it earlier, so it's a thingy, and I go to 125. So that is up there now, 125. Now this feels a bit like this thingy and what's it thing. And of course, I was talking about World of Warcraft earlier. This actually does feel a bit like a quest in a RPG where you go and you have this sort of fetch something kind of quest. So you're told where to go by someone, and you go and get the thing for them, and you go back and you deliver it, and that's what it feels like. So this is the fighting fantasy version, the gamebook version of a sort of a normal, massively multiplayer online role-playing game quest, pretty much. And also it's relatively open world, this one, which is interesting as well. So yeah, it's linear and open world at the same time. Actually, yeah, I think it's different. I quite like it, actually. So anyway, where am I? Yes. So you pass the thingy to Matix, and she looks delighted. That's a hell of a thingy you found. Well done, officer. If you have a what's it or doobry and haven't... Oh, that's a doobry as well. I forgot about the doobry. So, am I supposed to get a doobry as well? But I thought I'd been everywhere. Where's the doobry? Oh. Must be something I missed. So I still need to get a doobry. This is getting a little bit sort of going back and forth now. So what is it that I haven't been... I'm a little bit stumped now because I don't actually know where I'm going. Because the only place I can go from here is to go back where I came from. And I thought I'd done all the different things I could now. So anything I missed? Or is the doobry the same as the what's it? Because, yeah, 226. It only says, hang on. It's just because this is a bit sort of confusing now because they're asking for a thingy or a what's it, and then when I said that I delivered the thingy, it also says doobry, but of course doobry is only mentioned as almost like a synonym of what's it. 375, okay. Is that the same thing then? Got a bit confused there. So I have given Matix everything she needs because the doobry and the what's it is the same thing apparently. Okay, so really the doobry should have been left out because that's just confusing the way it's worded there, as if that's one more thing that wasn't there. So I have given Matix everything she requested. And so I can go to 187. So 3125 and So 187, that's everything. 187. Okay. Which means I move on to the sort of the third chapter, I suppose, because the first one is basically this is first chapter, and then second chapter here, and then third one is when you go into the Bathysphere, I suppose. Yes, 187. I'll just go do 187 now before I talk any more about that. Okay, I think I can get her shipshape in a few hours, officer. Why don't you take a kip in the back here? There, you're going to need your strength. You head to the back of the workshop and see a pile of blankets. You're uncertain how clean they are, but you're exhausted and they do look cozy. You drift off to sleep, lulled by the sound of thunks, clangs, and the occasional ouch. Probably some cussing as well. A few hours later, Matix shakes you awake. The barnacle's ready to go. Hope you are too. You're not sure that you are, but you follow Matix to the Bathysphere, which has been moved to the nearby dock. Restore up to 2 stamina points. That came at the wrong place, didn't it? Have you got 2 stamina points because the Bathysphere has been moved to the nearby dock? No, you haven't. You've got 2 stamina points because you've been sleeping. So, you drift off to sleep, lulled by the sound of thunks, clanks, and occasional ouch. Restore up to 2 stamina points is what it should have said, so this is also a little sort of editorial error there. Anyway, so plus 2 stamina and brings me back to 18, which is great. On the way, she explains the barnacle's controls to you. She also tells you how to engage the barnacle's weapons, which come in the form of a large pincer-like arms in case you encounter any dangers. There is also a large suction system on one of the pincers for picking up interesting finds you may unearth and bringing them inside the Bathysphere. Matix also tells you she has fitted the barnacle with a special gadget that conducts and amplifies sound, which will allow you to hear better underwater, even from inside the Bathysphere. Upon reaching the barnacle, you climb into the small one-person cabin. Well, of course, yeah, conducts and amplifies sound. Yeah, pressure waves, as they're known as, of course. There's no such thing as a sound wave, really, because sound only exists as a perceived phenomenon, which means it only exists in your mind as the brain's interpretation of variations in air pressure. And of course, in water, it's water pressure. So yeah, anyway. I mean, water, you can't. I mean, sound, of course, even if you use sound the sort of technically the wrong way, and you talk about sound waves through the air, in water it doesn't work the same way. So still, even more so, you have to talk about vibrations or pressure waves. Anyway, never mind. Upon reaching the barnacle, you climb into the small one-person cabin and store your weapons and backpack inside. Right, the barnacle's storm crystals will allow you to float down to the water. You won't find she's as maneuverable as your hovers in the air, but once she is in the water, she's a dream. It's all up to you now, officer. Pangaria's counting on you. Yes. Matix shuts the lid of the Bathysphere and you begin your descent to Nimbus. Luckily, this time not the Nimbus. There's so many the Nimbuses in this one, but luckily this time it is Nimbus, which is the correct one. Okay, so and turn to 54. Okay, so I'm going to 54 and new page. I'll just put just the book code here so I don't mix these up with anything else later. Probably wouldn't be too hard to find out. It's easier just to have FF69 written on the corner there. So we are going to 54 after a small break. So I'll be right back and I'll keep going then. So I'll see you very soon. Okay, I'm back after a little break. It's quite a long playthrough this, so I needed a few minutes and to get some more water as well. Right, so we are descending in the Bathysphere toward Nimbus. Know thee. So 54. You're glad to finally be on your way to Nimbus, but at the same time you're terrified of what you might find down there. Beyond the storms, is the Nimbus still afloat? Or has it sunk into the ocean depths? So that's one paragraph you're doing Nimbus with the and one without. Or has it sunk into... Yeah. Are any of your friends in the Skywatch still alive? The bathysphere shakes a little as it passes through the turbulent storm clouds, but soon you feel it land with a large splash in the water. Rain drums on the top of the bathysphere, and the waves toss you from side to side, making you feel ill. The ocean of tempests is living up to its name. From now on, unless you exit the bathysphere or you are specifically told to use your personal skill and stamina score, you must use the bathysphere's skill and stamina scores instead. Okay, that is interesting. So we have a stamina of 20 and skill. The bathysphere skill score is equal to your initial skill score minus 1. So that is 10. Any bonuses or penalties you have as a result of using particular weapons do not apply for as long as you are using the bathysphere skill and stamina score. Okay, so now turn to 186. This is quite a nice little sort of different spin as well on the gaming experience to be inside a vehicle of sorts. Right, so you engage the bathysphere's controls and decide whether to explore the surface or dive beneath it. Now, it sounds like being on the surface will make you very seasick, so I think maybe I want to dive. I do want to dive. Okay, so I suppose again we do a save game point here at 54 now at the beginning of this section, but it seems that we should be okay. So let's dive in and 150 dive or 312 surface. Dive, Birdman, dive. Okay. You direct the barnacle downwards and the waters close over the top of the submersible. Initially your vision is obscured by the churn of the waves, but soon the waters clear and you see the azure ocean stretching out before you. Unfortunately, this gives you an unusually clear view of the monster heading straight towards you, with the head and upper body of a terrifying shark and the tentacle-covered lower body of a giant squid. This is the great white squawk. Ah, yes, so like a portmanteau between squid and shark, so it's a squark, I suppose. And it wants you as its next meal. Taking a firm hold of the barnacle's controls, you prepare to battle the sea monster using the craft's mechanical claws. Right, so great white squawk. And we have, so this was now the 1020. So 1020, I'll just put that here. So 1020 versus 910. And so I've only got one skill point advantage. This is quite a potentially tough combat. So 8 versus 6. The squawk gets the first hit. 6 versus 9. 5 versus 7. 5, 11, 8, 7, draw, 7, 4, squawk gets a hit in, 5, 8, and finally perhaps 7, 7, yes, squawk is dead, long live the squawk. If you win, turn to 385, so this is a great white squawk, 9, 10, and I win. I go to 385. Right. As the corpse of the great white squawk sinks into the depths, you manage to activate the barnacle's suction tube on the right pincer and capture yourself a piece of fresh calamari. Okay. So even more food here. So calamari plus 3. Add this to your provisions list. It will restore up to 3 stamina when eaten, but not by the Bathysphere, I suppose. Can't eat, can it? You feel the water vibrate around you. You brace yourself, but nothing happens. But nothing appears, and eventually the vibrations cease. You survey the depths. There is a large dim shape in the distance. It could be a rock formation, or it could be the sunken nimbus. There are also some interesting looking caves below you which could be worth investigating. If you want to head towards the caves, turn to 85. To continue towards the large dim shape, turn to 191. I'll check out the caves first. So, famous last words, isn't it? I'll check out the caves first. I'll be right back. Okay, so 85 for the caves. You direct the barnacle towards the caves. Fish, coral, and other aquatic life forms of every color imaginable drift around you, busy with their own affairs and seemingly unperturbed by you and your squat little craft. Soon you come to the entrance to the caves. The cave entrance is wide, and you easily maneuver the bathysphere inside. Even in this darker world, there are bright spots of luminescent plant life, and eyes watch you from every nook and crevice. You reach a fork in the caves. If you want to take the left fork, turn to 231. Take the right fork, turn to 101. It's become a dungeon crawl this now, did it? Right, so left, 231, 231 left, or 101 right. I'm going to go left. You make your way down the left-hand passage. Your senses are alerted when the little glowing fish around you all go into hiding at once. Then you see it. Staring at you through the gloom is the snake-like face of a huge electric eel, and it is clearly not happy about its peace being disturbed. You can see elemental energy rippling over its skin. It swims closer to you, sizing you up and deciding whether you are worth the trouble. If you want to engage the electric eel in combat, turn to 41. If you'd rather not fight the monster fish, turn to 333. So, sounds like a bad idea to fight something electric in this machine, doesn't it? So 333, not, or 41, fight. I'd rather not, actually, so I'll try to avoid that if I can. You don't want to take any unnecessary risks with the barnacle. Keeping one eye on the creature, you carefully reverse out of the passage. To take the right fork, if you haven't already, turn to 101. Okay, so... or to head for the large dim shape. Okay, so that's an option too, to go to 191. Okay, so we go to 101. You glide the bathysphere down the gloomy tunnel to the right. The barnacle flows through narrow tunnels and small caves with ease, aside from a few small scratches to its hull, but there seems little of interest in the murky depths. You're just about to give up and go back when the tunnel becomes lighter. You can't see what's producing the illumination. If you want to press on, hoping to find the source of the light, turn to 190. If you want to turn back and leave the caves, turn to 61. So we have 190. Head for the light, or we'll go back. So I'm going to check out the light. Again, I have saved my game, haven't I? So the passage becomes narrower, and it's only when the light gets brighter that you realize it's coming from behind you. Right behind you. This thought is punctuated by a screeching sound as something scrapes against the barnacle's metal hull, and the craft spins forwards, out of control, tumbling you around. Deduct 2 stamina points from the barnacle, and also from your personal stamina score. So I'm down to 16, barnacle down to 18. Hang on. I already took some damage, didn't I? It's 16... yes, so 16, 14. 14, it's got 14 stamina left, the barnacle. Once the barnacle is righted again, you speed forward into a larger cave that is only partly submerged. You turn the bathysphere round and face what's behind you. It is an enormous wraithfish, an abyssal horror, with a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth and an appendage like a fishing rod coming from atop its head, which emits a blinding light. There's no getting around it. You're going to have to fight. And that's this thing here, which actually looks a bit like a real fish, except the real ones are quite tiny. Right. So 9, 12. Let's see, 9, 12. When you have reduced the wraithfish's stamina score to 6 points or fewer, it will knock the barnacle up onto a ledge. Okay. Right, so we've got 10, 14, 9, 12, and 10, 14. That can't end well, surely. Okay. So I've got a 1 skill point advantage for now, and 4 versus 11. That's a good start. 5 versus 5. That's me hitting the fish again. 9. Fish rolls. I roll a 6. Was a 10 there for a moment, but it rolled off the edge there. 10 and 5. 4 and 9. Now it's down to 6. And then the fish knocks the barnacle up onto a ledge, and it won't have them. Okay, so it, and the skill is down by 2. So that means I'm now fighting 9, 6 versus 8, 10. So now it's got the upper hand, really. So 6 versus 11. Okay, fine. 8 versus 6. I'm down to 8 stamina left there. 5 and 7. Okay, and 5 and 9. So I managed to win. Barnacle is down to 8, 8. Or actually, it's down to 8 stamina rather, because the skill will be alright once I get it back in the water. 8 stamina left. And I win, and I go to 14. So 14. The light dims and the sea creature sinks to the bottom of the cave. You look around the rocky ledge and see that the wraithfish was quite the hoarder. There were lots of metallic bits and pieces strewn around the cave. You root around amongst the junk to see if you can uncover anything of value. You find a strange brass rod, which looked like it might have come from a boat, and a silver goblet. So, brass, rod, silver, goblet. Brass, rod, silver, goblet. Okay. You managed to get the barnacle back into the water. The craft still looks usable despite everything it's been through. You get back in and decide where to go next. If you have the code word rescue, you can turn to 132. If not, and you want to leave the passage and take the left fork in the caves, if you haven't explored that way already, turn to 231. To leave the caves and head for the large dim shape, turn to 191. Right, should I go with the left fork? No, that's probably too risky, isn't it? Or is it too risky? Should I just do it anyway? May as well. If I die now, I'm going to start where I've got that bathysphere, and I'm just going to go back in the water and do it from there, actually. So I think I'll be okay that way. Because this is too linear and too long for me to want to play from the beginning to to the end and sort of go, because I'll be doing exactly the same absolutely every single step of the way almost, which is a bit much. So I definitely would have to continue from a save point. So but there was also an interestingly, if I had rescue there, 132 rescue, nope, and then there was 231. Oh, already got 231 on my map there. Should I go into? I think I'll go with 231 and just try to fight that creature. So I'm going to bake back there, and I'll just see what happens when I fight the Electric Eel. So let's see now. So the Electric Eel at the other part of the cave now has got 8 skill, 8 stamina. Every 3 attack rounds, the eel will emit a pulse of electricity that will cause 3 stamina points of damage to the Bathysphere, whether you wound the creature or not. So and this also went to 191. Okay, so I'll just try that. And see if it is worth doing. Okay, so 8, 8, and I am at 10. Oops, 10, 8. So I've got a 2 skill point advantage, and we got the same stamina of 8. So let's see how that goes. 6 versus 7. So the eel is down to 6. That's 1 round. 9 versus 6. So down to 6, and that's 2 rounds. 6 versus 2. 4 versus 6, and then I lose 3, so I got 1 hit point, 1 stamina left. 7 versus 6, and that means I need to use luck to do extra damage. I presume I can still use luck. That's the only way I can actually survive this battle now, is by using luck. I need to hit it 3 times now, or I need to hit it 2 times, and I have to win a luck roll, otherwise I won't be able to make it. So I'm rolling against 8 for luck, and I roll a 9, which means I am dead. Because then I can't make it, because the 3rd round it will emit a pulse of... Or shall I interpret that as being after I've attacked? No, I think it's during the round, isn't it? That's how I interpret it. So it's 1, 2, 3. So yeah. So I think basically I can't win the battle now. Because I don't... Yeah, so I've lost the battle. I will... Okay, so yes, the Electric Eel kills me, I think. And next time, I will start from where I got into the water again and take it from there, because, yeah, I think I definitely shouldn't have gone into the caves. Maybe it seems a bit too hard. Or if it's meant to be that hard, if you really need the items that you pick up, I mean, that's the only thing. And I don't know if you do. And if you do, then it just seems a little bit on the hard side, actually, for that to be the case. But in any case, I'm actually really enjoying this game book, even though it is actually rather linear. But even because it is linear, I wouldn't find it very enjoyable to start over from the beginning again. Even though it would be slightly different whether you, depending on which home island you select, the gameplay would be slightly different. But certainly it's very sort of clearly defined into 3 parts, this game, and you really can't sort of move on. And I presume that once you move on from one part to the next, that there won't be any crucial items from that path that you don't have, that you could have missed, because otherwise that would be a little bit silly as well, I think. So in terms of structure, it's a bit strange. It's a bit very linear, but I think it's still enjoyable. But the thing is, you don't want to start over. You want to continue from where you left off just before you died, which is something that The book doesn't. I'm not sure if it actually encourages it, but it probably should. I guess people can play it however they want. Yeah. Right. So I think I'll leave it there for now for today, and I'll continue next time, where I will go into the water and see if I do things a little bit differently, which I may or may not do. I might try exploring the surface actually and just seeing if that helps, because going down here and first thing you meet is a squawk, and then you, yeah, I don't know, it seems quite hard. It seems quite hard. I'm not sure if it's meant to be this hard. Anyway, and because it is quite linear, there's so many battles you can't avoid in this one as well. So yeah. Anyway, I'll try again next time, and thanks for watching. Please share, comment, subscribe, like, join me on Patreon, all those things if you like what I do on YouTube. And I will see you next time with more Crystal of Storms, the new book in the Fighting Fantasy series, and see how I get on with it next time. So, thanks for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.